y'all?
Good afternoon.
So you were
Tell
part
me
of
when
the,
you're ready. Yeah.
Were you part of the status conference? just
I
now?
was, yeah.
So tell us what happened.
So we just came out of a status conference with Judge Afric, and Judge Afric scheduled that conference just so that he could get updated on what's going on with the escape of these inmates. And, you know, we wanted to reassure the judge that what our priorities are, they haven't changed. They are to recover the individuals who are have not been recovered yet, make sure that public safety is being addressed, and address security and stability at the prison. And so we are talking and we are working with the sheriff, the district attorney, the city council, the Supreme Court, the judge, and the governor to address that situation. So, you know, when we say it's all hands on deck, we mean it's all hands on deck. We are trying to look at all of the different mechanisms and tools that we would have to address some problems and reduce the population, if possible, at that jail, and address any other deficiencies or factors that might have contributed or could contribute to any problems in the future. So it's got everybody's attention.
Do you have any questions about whether the consent decree is being followed, especially as it pertains to the rounds every 30 minutes, every 15 minutes with special inmates, people that are supposed to be watching the video cameras? Or you have concerns with whether it's being followed?
We didn't talk about that level of detail. We wanted to reassure the judge that we are all working on a plan and trying to come up with some different solutions to some of these problems. But I can tell you that what happened before the inmates went over the wall is part of my investigation. We do have people that have been in the prison cooperatively working with the sheriff to evaluate what happened, for instance, Friday afternoon. So it is a continuing process, and I don't really want to speak to all of those details while we have an open investigation into all of that.
Do you believe Sheriff Hudson should resign?
No, I'm working with Sheriff Hudson right now to address all the problems at the jail. I'm focused more on what we're doing now and in the future than looking. The investigation is looking what happened before the inmates went over the wall. I don't think it's constructive to address it in that way. I think we need to be focused on what the task is in front of us, recover the individuals who are out there, make sure that the public safety is being addressed, and security and stability at the prison.
Is there a danger of the federal judge saying that he would appoint someone to run the prison, as was done in the early days of the consent decree, given the myriad of issues that are over that resulted in this prison break?
Look, I think the judge knows that there are some features of this problem that, he's been in it longer than, I walked into this problem last Friday in a more detailed way. We've all heard about issues that they've been struggling with in the consent decree reviews and discussions. We have issues at the courts with the court dockets. We have a judge who a report just came out about who has a docket of something like 700 cases that are backlogged since 2016. I think the Supreme Court is actually addressing that. The Louisiana Supreme Court is. But this is a multi-pronged problem, and that's how I want to look at it, is how can we address multiple features of this problem and get some other players involved. The judge doesn't have control over the Louisiana Supreme Court.
And I know you asked to terminate the consent decree to better enforce immigration laws on the heels of what actually happened this past weekend. Do you still stand by that, to terminate the consent decree?
100%. Now, that's a different consent decree. That's a different one. That's an agreement that was entered into related to the prison and how it interacts with ICE. I still believe the agreement is both violates state law and federal law. It contemplated ending if state law changed. State law did change. Honestly, I don't think it ever should have been entered. Can take people and move them and deport them, then they should do that. We've got people generally who are being held on state charges, and usually you've got to clear their state charges before they can be deported. So, I do believe that we need accountability for people who are not legally present in our country, but who commit crimes here. And so I want to hold them accountable for those crimes that they've committed, and then I think they should be deported.
Representative Debbie Villio, who, as you know, is the chair of the House Criminal Justice Committee, has found a bill to put an amendment on that would require the adult jails, the facilities that are housing state offenders, to immediately report when there is an escape. What are some of your thoughts on that legislation?
Good common sense legislation. We have it in place with juveniles. I think, the question came up, obviously, is there the same requirement for adults, and determined that there's not. But I don't know that anybody thought we actually needed a law to require that. Again, I think it speaks to staffing and other deficiencies that may have led to these people being able to get out and get over the wall. So we're going to look at that, but it's a good piece of legislation. I mean, something shouldn't take something like this to happen, to make sure that we've got that kind of policy in place. But if that's what we need, then we'll do it.
We haven't heard from the sheriff since Friday. You say you're working right there with her.
Mm-hmm.
What is she doing? What is she working on?
Look, everybody has lots of questions that they want answered. I do too. And I have an investigation underway. I think the sheriff wants to know who she can trust in her prison, and so do we. Staffing problems are not just a problem at this prison. They're a problem at prisons all over the state, including the State Department of Corrections. So we're constantly challenged to hire qualified people and keep the staffing levels up. So, I think that she's been devastated by this happening. She's trying to do everything she can. I've encouraged her, and she has, embraced the help that we've offered, and I've encouraged her to do that. This is a big deal. It's not something anybody wanted to happen. I'm sure she didn't want it to happen either. So, I'm focused, and I think she is focused on constructively addressing the problems that we need to address to make sure that nothing can happen in the future, while we all continue to have to address what happened in the past. And she still has to deal with that.
If she would have reached out prior to this happening saying, I have staffing problems, I'm having issues in the jail, how might you have been able to help her?
Look, everybody knew she had staffing problems. That's not a secret. I mean, they've been talking about it for 13 years at these proceedings. She's not the only one that has staffing problems. And, so it's a continuing problem all around the country. It is a problem in Louisiana, and it's a problem here. So I don't know that there was anything I could have done about that. I mean, is there some locks on prison doors, blankets being thrown over door, things like those are things that, I didn't know were occurring. Maybe we could have helped with those kinds of issues, but, hindsight's 20/20. I don't know that it does anybody any good to sort of look back in time and say, what could you have done if she had asked you then? I mean, we didn't want this to happen. She didn't want this to happen. Nobody wanted this to happen. And, we can look back at what the situation was and what it is now, and we can correct that problem going forward. And I think that is the most constructive thing for me to be doing in this process.
Did the judge set any other dates for a hearing on this matter?
We're gonna touch base with him in about a week and a half. He is giving us, the latitude to work as state partners with our local government officials and other branches of government, like the Louisiana Supreme Court, to try and put a multi-pronged plan together that would address some of the problems and relieve some of the pressure at this jail.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
I have a question, Attorney General. Are there any investigations going on right now to find any other things going on in jail, whether inmates that mess with any other things, testing tools or anything like that? I know the DA said that he would like to see an investigation going on. What is being done right now to ensure that the jail is safe and this doesn't happen again?
So the governor has issued an executive order to require an audit of the jail. I know that possibly as soon as today, sometime this afternoon, you can reach out to the Department of Corrections for confirmation, or the governor's office on that. But they have a team coming in to do a physical assessment and assess a number of different aspects at the jail. I'm sure they will cover all of that if something else happened. But they're going to look at the current situation. One of the things that we've had conversations about with the sheriff are the doors. Sliding doors, swinging doors, locks, things like that. Fencing, I can tell you it was surprising to me when I heard news, or people on the news saying this is a minimum security prison. I thought we have some very high risk individuals who are being held in this prison. It startled me to hear that it was described as a minimum security prison. But those are physical aspects of the prison that cause it to be categorized that way. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at how can we harden physical aspects of this prison so that we can be realistic about the population that is being held there. And so I think that that's all going to be part of what the audit team from the Department of Corrections is going to do.
If all of this has been happening for years, why wasn't all of this happening sooner?
It's a local prison, and it's been under a consent decree, so there's a lot of people that are involved in that process. It is, local prisons are funded locally. They are managed locally. I think this has been, a local problem to address. If they came to, I'm just been Attorney General for 1 year, but I can tell you that if any sheriff had come to me and said, I need your help, then I would help them. I would do everything I could to help them.